Uh, I'm recovering addict named Larry.
Larry.
We already opened with the Serenity Prayer, so I kind of let God lead what I'm going to say. Um, First of all, if you're new, man, welcome. Welcome to one of the greatest shows on earth. My clean date is August of 1993, August 20th, 1993. And I still come to meetings. I still do this conference. Awesome conference. Awesome. I'd like to thank Phil for asking me to speak this year. And the group that puts this on, what's it called, the Men's Recovery Group, Nella Club, that puts this on every year. Great. I really appreciate you guys. I first got introduced to Narcotics Anonymous in 1985 after a gateway rehab. And I went to one meeting, and the guys were so jolly and happy down there, and I was like, this ain't real, this ain't for me. So I went home and tried to white knuckle it by myself without Narcotics Anonymous, without no support, and of course, I used again. Found myself in treatment again in 1987. At that time, my first wife went to treatment as well, and when she came out, she bought into this. I still hadn't bought into it yet. So needless to say, I did a number of treatments, and I was one of them people, man, that always tried to convince somebody else that I was clean. And one guy told me, he said, you ain't got to convince me. You got to do that for yourself. And, but I learned a lot, and I had all the Narcotics Anonymous jargon. I had all the steps memorized. I had memorized. I ain't working on it. I had memorized. I had all the readings memorized, and it scares me today when I see people reciting the readings without reading them off the paper. It really does. It scares me today because I used to try to do that, and I used to think that everybody thought Larry knows his stuff. He don't even need the sheet to read the readings, No. I used to think people was like, yeah, Larry knows stuff. Larry didn't know nothing. But anyway, if you're new, man, put your seatbelt on and go for the ride, Narcotics Anonymous. I got clean in 1993, finally, after six treatments. And I had a sponsor that told me, Larry, you got to change everything about yourself except your name. And I was like, where do I start? That sounded like a big order to me. I said, where do I start? And I remember my brother told me, my brother's passed now, but my brother told me something that he told me before I could even grasp it. While I was still using it, he told me, God wants you to be a man of your word. And I couldn't grasp that. I see the theme here is one ultimate authority, a power greater. And so I said to myself, when I got clean, I remembered what my brother told me, and I said, that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start doing what I said I was going to do, be what I said I was going to be. Okay? And believe it or not, when I started practicing that, and it took a day at a time, don't get me wrong, it didn't happen overnight. I just practiced it. And when people looked at me, first of all, I got some self-worth for myself from doing that. And then when people, it came from the inside out, and people started seeing that, and they had no choice but to change their opinion of me. They didn't even have a choice. Even if they didn't like me, they had to change their opinion of me. And by doing that and coming to Narcotics Anonymous meeting and growing, people started putting me in positions that I never thought I would be in, you know? And I owe that all to Narcotics Anonymous. I owe all this weight to Narcotics Anonymous. When I came in here, I weighed 160 pounds. Now I weigh 260 pounds. All right? So we do get well, man. And for about my first, I'll say 20 years of recovery, smooth, man. My mom, my dad was still living. They was loving on me, man, because I was doing the right thing. My brother was still living. I had, and then I ended up getting that shock, man. Where you always say whenever you're clean, man, if my mom died, I'm probably gonna pick up. My dad died, I'm probably gonna. Guess what? You don't have to. You don't have to. I found out that I didn't have to use a long time ago when I had probably about 2 months clean. I didn't have no money. I hadn't used nothing, but I had no money. And I went around, I was in a different area, I was in Ohio. And I went over to the corner store, and I must have had I am an addict stamped on my forehead. Because this guy came up to me, he said, hey man, are you looking? And I was clean. And I was like, I kind of cussed him out. Kind of. But the next day, I got that first welfare check because I had lost my job. First time I had ever been on welfare. I got that first welfare check, started an argument with the woman that I met in rehab so I could get out the house with my money. I got out the house, I went looking for him. Couldn't find him. God was doing something for me that I couldn't do for myself. Put him out of my reach. I had a friend that had just picked up. I said, I'll go up his house. He'll know who to cop from. He wasn't home. His girl was home. I said, what are you doing today? She said, I'm going to a meeting. Bell went off in my head. Okay, I'll go to a meeting. I went to a meeting, and it was the very first time in all these years that I had been going to treatments and meetings and all this that I wanted to use and I hadn't used yet. And I talked about it in the meeting. And the next day I got this little flip in my stomach that said, you never have to use again. And I didn't know that was in the basic text. In the Just for the Day reading, with the help of a higher power, you never have to use again. And the key word wasn't never, the key word was have to. It didn't say I would never feel like, or I would never want to. It said I never have to. And I've been riding that ever since. I've been riding not having to use ever since. Okay? And I lost my mother. I lost my brother. And I was supposed to speak at this men's conference last year, and I couldn't make it because my wife had a stroke on October 5th, and the conference was on the 7th. And my wife passed in January. That was one of the hardest pills I had to swallow in my recovery. Being with a woman for 25 to 30 years, I was married 25, but I was with her for 30 years, every day, and losing her, that was one of the hardest pills I had to swallow in my recovery. I still get a little balled up every now and again, because it hasn't been a year yet, but even you can't put no time on grief. But every once in a while I still get a little balled up. But I miss her. Narcotics Anonymous, man, showed me how to live. I did service work in Narcotics Anonymous. I was the H&I chair for the Southwest area for a long time. Probably 5 years at one point, and then maybe another 2 or 3 years later on after that. Service work is a good way, man. Phil been in service work ever since he's been here. He's still doing it. You know what I'm saying? He's still doing it. This is what keeps him clean. This is what keeps him moving in Narcotics Anonymous and helping the newcomer. I came here with 3 gentlemen from a recovery center in McKeesport, and we had a good time laughing coming up here, man. Listen to some music. I put the gospel on. One of them was receptive. The other 2, I don't know. I told them I put some old school on the way home. But it's a good thing, man. It's a good thing. Narcotics Anonymous, man, greatest show on earth. Welcome, man. You see where I was sitting at right there. Phil gave me the 5-minute sign. I got to keep an eye on Phil because you got the 5-minute left sign. Okay. I got a seat right there. And as one of my friends just passed away used to say, I need to sit up in the slow learners class, up in the front, so I can hear. So I can hear what's going on. I don't need to be sitting back in the room talking and yakking and all that. Listen, get yourself a sponsor. Get yourself a home group. Put the seatbelt on. Go for a ride and enjoy Narcotics Anonymous. Come to this men's conference. I hardly missed any of them, man. This is the 22nd one. I might have missed 2, maybe 3. I love Narcotics Anonymous. I'd like to thank you all for letting me share.
Thank you.